العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مضرك الحاربين، والصلاة والسلام وتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأرضين بأبي القاسم محمد، وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأطهرين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقتلتهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكري فضائلهم ملعونين. أما بعد, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziya, for the enlightenment to the graves of our marhumeen, of the graves of the Shuhada, Alamat, and Siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahlul Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam Arwahun al-Fida, please recite aloud this salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman and the one who is Rahim. We have reached the end of our series of lectures that look to try and shed some light on the concept of happiness, or how we can derive happiness in light of the teachings of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. And along the way, we looked at various aspects of the soul, various aspects of tazkiyat al-nafs, various things that a person can do to implement within their lives in order to try and achieve that sense of happiness. Happiness that's not attached to material items. So the hope is, or the aim is, that once one attaches themselves to that which is immaterial, then it doesn't matter whether they live within wealth or poverty. They're happy, they're satisfied with their lives. You know, you have the story of Hazrat Salman when he's banished to Rabada. The army or soldiers from Muawiyah come to Hazrat Salman, Hazrat Abu Dhar, and they say to him, they say that, you know, Muawiyah has sent some money for you. Now Abu Dhar is living in a mud hut in the middle of nowhere where there is no one around for him to be associated to, no one around for him to speak to, just him, his wife and his daughter. They come, they bring him money, and Abu Dhar, seeing the money, he turns to them, he says, I don't want it. And they said, look, Abu Dhar, look at the house that you're living in. He says, no, it's enough for me. He says, then think about your daughter. Abu Dhar then takes them inside, and he shows them the house. Inside this mud hut, he shows them 2 loaves of bread. He says that these 2 loaves of bread are for me and my wife for today and for tomorrow. In regards to my daughter, fear not for her, for I have taught her Surah Al-Waqi'ah. See the idea, because the recitation of Surah Al-Waqi'ah increases rizq in the life of a person, that sustenance within the life of a person, especially recited after Salat al-Maghrib. So a person that recites Surah Al-Waqi'ah is never short of rizq in their life. And obviously, as we've explained in this series, that sustenance isn't just money, it isn't just wealth, but it can be the sustenance of time, good health. It can be the sustenance of good familial relationships. All of these things are what add up to happiness. A person, it doesn't matter to a person that is happy whether they're living in poverty or they're living in wealth. The ones that are truly happy, and that transcends culture, that transcends religion, that transcends race. You see that people who, by our definitions, are living in deprivation, are living with very basic, commodities or very basic utilities, they're still happy, they're still satisfied with the life that they have. But yet me with all these mod-cons, me with all of these things that I hold so dear, I still can't find that sense of happiness. I still find that there's a void in my heart. I still try and fill it by buying more things, by adding, and this whole disease of buying or wanting to spend. This itself is a disease. So on one side we spoke about miserliness. A person who's a miser will never be happy. But a person who is a musrif, israf, excessively spends, will never be happy. That's a person that loses barakah as well. One of the definitions that Fir'aun is referred to in the Holy Quran is as being a musrif, being a person that was extravagant or wasteful. And we have that sort of idea, we have that in the society that we live in, this idea of consumerism, this society that we've grown up in. It's, I'll buy this thing even though I don't need it. It's not necessary for me. We have varying scales. We have something that is necessary, something that is not so necessary, and then something that is just pure fun. There's something that I didn't really need, but I just bought it. And that's trying to fill a void. And then we have boxes and boxes that pile up, and we never really get round to using them. And then we have implications for that as well. We have khums that has to be paid over all the items that we bought and never ever used. That itself is an implication that people don't think about. So when we become excessive in our purchasing, or we become excessive in the things that we have, even that doesn't bring any sort of satisfaction, because then certain people turn into hoarders. They turn into people who just want to carry on collecting things, buying things, thinking, hoping to fill a void that can never be filled by that which is material. So we have two scales. In every disease that is apparent or that is manifest within the human soul, there are two extremes. There is the lack of it, or there is the excess of it. We are the ummah of the middle path. We are the ummah of the middle. So whoever lives in moderation, whoever lives a life in the middle and in moderation, is the one that is successful. The one that lives a life of excess on either side, i.e., let's take the example of this spending. The one that is the miser, that does not spend enough or is afraid to spend, will go to hell. That miserliness will drag him to hell. And the one that spends too much, the one that is excessive in various things that they have in their life, buying things that are of no particular use to me, or not use, of no particular need or necessity. That person will also be questioned in regards to, we gave you this money and you needed, for example, you earned $5,000. You needed $3,500 in order to live a comfortable life. But the extra $1,500 that you had, you spent on wasteful things. And that's one of the questions that Munkar and Nakir will ask in the grave. And when the person doesn't get it right, they have maces of fire that they strike on their heads. Maces of fire, there's such power behind the force of the strike that if the narration says, if they were to hit upon the mountains of Mecca, they would become dust. says that we gave you wealth. Where did you spend it? So if it is enough for me to live within $3,500, $4,000 to live a comfortable life, I'm not even saying, live a simple life. I'm not even going towards the teachings of Imam Ali just yet. I'm just going by our standards. Amir al-Mu'mineen himself says, "Aynuni bil wara'in wal ijtihad," that you aid me when he writes a letter to his companion Uthman ibn Hanif. He says to him, "Ibn Hanif, it has come to my knowledge that you went to the gathering of the rich people where they served lots of food on large dishes." This culture of gala dinners that we have, against the teachings of Imam Ali. This culture of luxury and opulence. He says that it came to my knowledge you went to the homes of the rich men, and there they fed you many dishes on large plates. Ya Ibn Hanif, know that your master is not happy with this. Know that your master, your Imam, is the one that has 1 loaf or 2 loaves of bread a day, and he is the one that satisfies himself with only having 2 pieces of clothing. He says, I know you can't live like me. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I know you can't live like me, but at least aid me with your simple living and your abstinence. See, when the nafs says buy, I need to at times train my nafs, reel it in and say, no, I don't need it. Because it's in excess. There's a disease of excess there, where now I don't need it, but I'm buying it. So I need $3,500 to live comfortably. The $1,500 that is spent excessively on other things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question. What did you use that $1,500 for? Did it go to help people? Did it go to help forward the message of Islam? Did it go to help the needy around the world? What about the needy in your own town, in your own city? We will be questioned. The questioning of Munkar and Nakir is the questioning of Munkar and Nakir, and then the questioning of the Day of Judgment. They are so fine-tooth, like fine-tooth comb. We say going over with a fine-tooth comb. Even that's an understatement to what we have in the narrations of what a person will be questioned about on Yawm al-Qiyamah. They'll be questioned about things that they cannot even remember themselves doing. They'll be questioned about na'mat that they had. There's a story of Bahlul when he goes to visit Harun and he's sitting on his throne, and Harun walks in and he's like, what are you doing? And throws him off the throne, because they were related. So he says, what are you doing, you crazy man? Obviously Bahlul himself wasn't crazy. So Bahlul says to him, Harun, I've got a game. Let's play a game. Says, okay, what do you want? Says, let's simulate the Day of Judgment. Simulate the Day of Judgment. Okay. So Bahlul goes, he brings a sheet of metal and he lights a fire underneath it. He gets hot. He says, on the Day of Judgment, everyone will have to account and list the ni'mah that they were given by Allah and how they spent it or what they did with it, and what they accumulated within the world. They'll have to answer for it. But the ground will be hot, because the sun will be, they say at some points, in some narrations, at 1 spear's length or 2 spears' length away from the earth. Says that on that day there will be excessive heat, and everyone will have to account. So let's simulate the Day of Judgment. So Bahlul stands there, he says, I own 1 sackcloth, a small bowl, and one other thing, and he comes off. Says, that's all I own in the world. Says, Harun, your turn. Obviously, Harun, I'm not playing this game. When you have to account for everything that you own, that you've ever owned, that you possessed and that you did not spend properly or did not utilize properly, or that which you wasted, then that reality becomes a lot more scarier. When I think about all, there can be excess in many things. The shoes that I own, or the trousers that I don't even wear, but I own them because they looked nice. The hats. Various people have things that they just accumulate, and they never use them by and large. But it was just a good deal at that time. It was Black Friday. Yeah, I couldn't miss it. And that itself is an indication for a disease that indicates a lack of satisfaction within oneself. Because the desire to gain, to go, to grab, to have more. And it drives a person, and it has numbers of various different issues that are derived from that. So in order to achieve happiness, that's what we've been trying to chase. There are two ends of every spectrum, of every disease that we've highlighted. There is the excess of it, and there is the lack of it. Anger, when there's the excess of anger, a person becomes short-tempered, becomes insane. When there is a lack of anger, a person now becomes a pushover. Now the person is dictated to anything that someone says. They say, yeah, okay, that's fine, I'll do it. Even though they know that it's something that's wrong, that's something that shouldn't happen. It's something that a person, and then we often, joke and say, he's not a man anymore because his wife's pushing him around, or his wife's dictating everything. But it's not. See, there's a fine line between sabr and having become diseased with not having the ability to stand up for what is right, what is haq. And we see so many cases like this when we go to various places. I'm not allowed out because my wife won't let me come out. Or my husband will not, allow because he's got an anger issue. Now he won't allow me to go to the masjid. Or I can't see my friends, or I can't see my family because my wife will get angry. And so it's a very rudimentary example. We have others. Someone comes and attacks my home, and I say, leave him, I don't want any trouble. Or someone, a classic example is within our masajid. People come and they will say things that are kufr, that are shirk, that are ghuluf. They will associate Amirul Mu'mineen to Allah. They will say things like Ali Rab, or they will say things like Ali Razak, or they will say things like Ali Khaliq. And we say, name Madal Shairiya. It's okay. But it's not, because it's shirk. The person that has this sort of aqidah is mushrik. And here's the irony of it, that if there is a group of people with this aqidah where they say these words like Ali Rab, or they say things like Ali Allah, na'udhu billah, these people are mushrik, they are najis, eating their food is haram, marrying into them is haram, associating with them is haram. The religion is not just something light, that we think that, whatever comes. And so we hear these things that get said in our gatherings, and no one speaks out. No one wants to say anything. Because they say, I don't want to start trouble. This is a sign of that quwwat al-ghadabiyya being diseased such that it's removed from a person now. Now they don't have that fear. See, they don't have that fear of Allah, and they don't have that anger within them. See, anger is insanity when it's out of control. But at the same time, there is a good type of anger, and that anger is when a person becomes, the narration says, like a leopard, becomes angry like a leopard when he hears people disobeying the commands of Allah, when he sees people disobeying the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He becomes angry for the sake of Allah. But when we look at our own examples, so we see people destroying the religion left, right and center, within our qasidas, within our marthiyas, going totally, many a times, it's a joke amongst certain ulama from the Indian, like Indo-Pak subcontinent, that they say that we don't recite majlis before the time of iftar. Because there, sometimes you might end up associating or attributing a lie to Ahlul Bayt, and it makes your fast batil. Because some of the things that we say, giving like a poetic license to it or a spin of poetry to it, is attributing a lie to Ahlul Bayt and makes the fast batil. Something that we have to think about. If something is invalidating, can invalidate my fast by me saying those things, or by me sort of projecting an idea towards that, it's a problem. And then what would I do if my imam was here? You know, would my imam be happy with some of the poems or some of the bait of poetry that we hear? So when there is excess anger, a person loses their temper. When there's a lack of anger, then there's no jalal, there's no desire to defend the religion, there's no desire to stand up for the rights. And then a person becomes weak and feeble. So both sides, there is a good and there is a bad side. And then there's two aspects of bad within it. There's a lack of something and there's an excess of something. We're the ummah of the middle path. That remains between both excesses, between both extremes. There's a path, and that's the path that we walk on. Today I wanted to touch, because being the wiladat of the second Imam as well, I wanted to touch on the letter or the will that Amir al-Mu'mineen writes to Imam al-Hasan upon returning from the battle of Siffin. It's a lengthy letter, but it is filled with so many different lessons. I've seen people do the sharh of this over 50-60 hours, 50 or 60 sessions giving the sharh of this letter 31 of Nahjul Balagha, where Amir al-Mu'mineen addresses his son and gives him advices in how to lead a good life and in how to achieve that elusive state of happiness, because that's all it is, that rida, that satisfaction is where happiness is derived from. The opening lines of this letter are beautiful. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, من الولد الفان المقر للزمان المدبر العمر المستسلم للدهر الضامي للدنيا الساكن مساكن الموتى وزاعني عنها غدا. Says من ولد الفان, from that father that is soon to die, to be annihilated, who acknowledges the hardships of time, who has turned away from life, who has submitted himself to the calamities of the time, who realizes the evils of the world, who is living in the abode of the dead and is due to depart from them any day. إلى المولود, to his son, from the father to his son. إلى المولود المؤمل ما لا يدرك السالك سبيل من قد ألك عرض الأسقام رهينة الأيام ورمية المصائب وعبد الدنيا وتاجر الغرور وغريم المنايا وأسير الموت وحليف الهموم قرين الأحزان نصب الآفات سريع الشهوات وخليفة الأموات. Says, and to the son who yearns for what is not to be achieved, who is treading the path of those who have died, who is the victim of ailments, who is entangled in the worries of the days, who is the target of hardships, a slave of the world, a trader of its deception, a debtor of its wishes, a prisoner of mortality, an ally of worries, a neighbor of grief, a victim of distresses, who has been overpowered by desires, and who is a successor of the dead. See how Amir al-Mu'mineen addresses his son, addresses his own situation. And then he goes through various advices. And I've only selected a couple of paragraphs to look at what Amir al-Mu'mineen says. In one part, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Ya bunay, اجعل نفسك ميزانا فيما بينك وبين غيرك. Says, my son, make yourself the measure for dealings between you and others. Thus you should desire for others what you desire for yourself, and hate for others what you hate for yourself. First piece of advice. After asking his son over 2 or 3 paragraphs to fear Allah, have the taqwa of Allah, ask Allah to aid him, then the first pieces of advice that Amir al-Mu'mineen gives to his son says that you yourself must be the measure of how to deal with others. If you want a checklist of how is it that I should deal with someone, put yourself in their position and say how you would like to be addressed in their position, and then address them in that way. Because you satisfy that person as well. Says that speak to them, or desire for yourself, or desire for others what you desire for yourself. If you want something for yourself, pray for your mu'min brother that he also has it. If you derive happiness from something and see that others do not have that, pray to Allah that they too have that. That they achieve. If you're looking for desire, if you want happiness, then pray for others to achieve happiness. If you're chasing happiness, then facilitate others to chase happiness. If you desire to become more spiritually inclined, then desire for others to also join you on the journey. Not we climb up one rung on the ladder of spirituality, anyone behind us we kick them down. We make sure this person doesn't reach here. By restricting knowledge. No, you shouldn't talk about this. Oh no, we can't speak about this off the member. The people get upset. This is one way where we have led our communities into a state of ignorance, that we're afraid to speak of what is truth from the member. We're afraid to reveal what is the realities that are written in the books that go against those cultural practices that have become foundations for our centers. At times it seems that temples have been erected upon masajid grounds. That there is nothing but an image of Islam or the name of Islam, but what takes place in it, alhamdulillah, not here. By the way, before anyone gets offended, not here. I'm saying generally, this is a general point. That it seems at times you go into centers where now there is only culture, there is no Islam. It just so happens that part of that culture they say Salamun Alaikum. It's part of that culture for them to say Ya Hussein and Ya Ali. But whether or not they reflect the teachings of Imam al-Hussein and Amir al-Mu'mineen is another matter. So desire for others what you desire for yourself. Hate for others what you hate for yourself. When you do not like something, you don't like someone speaking to you in a certain way, in a condescending, in a demeaning way, then don't talk to others in a condescending, demeaning way. If you don't like something to eat, you think that something, this part is not I don't want the bone, for example, in the food that comes. I don't want the bone. See, no one's looking, okay, just take this part, leave the bone. And then the brother sitting next to me, he can deal with what he wants to do. It's a very rudimentary example, but it's the mindset that we have. There's only one piece of meat left. I want it. But if I want it, that means the guy across from me wants it, or the person next to me may want it. Now there's two options that I have. Either I can give in to my nafs and take that piece of meat, or I can say no. I desire for others what I desire for myself, and I leave it. I give it to the person next. It's a very rudimentary example, but it gives an indication of the various diseases that exist in our soul, but they manifest in very small and insignificant actions that we don't realize. Why is it that I took more of this? Because I was afraid it would finish? Or because it was really tasty, so I wanted more of it? But if it was really tasty and I wanted more of it, maybe my other brother wanted more of it. Or maybe someone didn't get it. It's very rudimentary, but see, the idea is when you break it down and you go down, and you analyze in this way, you realize that the disease is something different to what it manifests. The seed is somewhere different. I'll give you an example that I give everywhere I go. Every Hussainiyya, every masjid around the world has a shoe rack within it. Yeah? It has a shoe rack, a place where you place your shoes. And everywhere has a sign, mashallah, your sign is huge. Please place your shoes on the rack. Yeah? And every night I leave and there's about 20, 30 shoes on the floor. And half the rack empty. Am I the only one? People have seen this, right? Yeah? Alhamdulillah. Okay. Bear with me. Everywhere you go, there is a shoe rack. Everywhere you go, there is a sign that says, please place your shoes on the rack. And everywhere you go, there's a pile of shoes on the floor. Why is it that I did that action? Now let's analyze the action. I want to show you how we break down an action and reach the core, the root of the disease. Why is it that I did not place the shoes on the rack? Well, the first thing is I thought the floor was najis. I didn't want to get my feet najis. So I brought my shoes right to the end, took them off and stepped into the masjid. The other reason is that I didn't want to miss the lecture. I was in a hurry, so I quickly took them off and I stepped in. Or then the third reason is I couldn't be bothered. Or then the fourth reason is that I thought this sign doesn't apply to me. It applies to others, not to me. 4 reasons. What is the effect of my actions? One simple thing, dhulm, oppression. And as I've explained before, oppression is not just one country bombing another country. No, dhulm is far greater. Or you may ask me, what is the dhulm of leaving my shoes on the ground? Well, now with the shoes there, other mu'mineen coming have to step extra over your shoes. That extra step that they have to take is dhulm on them. Is infringement of haqqun nas. Because their right is to be able to reach the door without any problems. But my shoes that I've left there are now causing a hindrance for them. That now they have to step around the shoes so that they don't trip over the shoes. Dhulm. I take off those, or then in the case of a fire, someone has to run out, shoes are in the way, people trip over the shoes, people get hurt, dhulm. But why is it that I did the action? Analyze. So I wanted to get in early. Why? Because I didn't want to miss it. But why? Well, it's important that I get there on time. Okay, so I. Second reason, I didn't want my feet to become najis, so I brought my shoes to the end. So then what about all the other people that are coming? Yeah, but it doesn't count for them. I was making sure my feet were not najis. Again, I. The third reason is that it doesn't apply to me. The fourth reason, I can't be bothered. All of them center around one central concept, and that is I am in some way better than other people. Because I can't be late, because I can't get my feet najis, because I can't be bothered, and because it doesn't apply to me. All of it is centered around a central point, and that is that I believe that I am better than someone else. But now, why is it that I believe that I'm better than someone else? Dig into it, scrape back all of the excess noise around it, and we reach the lubbul lubab, the kernel of the kernel. We reach the seed from where my action of not putting my shoes on the rack manifested, and that is because I am mutakabbir. I am proud. I have the disease of pride. I have the disease, it's so deep inside, but look how it's manifesting. Me not putting my shoes on the rack. And we can do that with various actions in our day-to-day lives. Anything. You sit down and you begin to analyze, why is it that I did that? Why is it that I sat in the lecture and I answered my phone, for example, and started speaking while someone was speaking? Why did I do that? So, well, it was urgent. But why couldn't I leave? Well, because I shouldn't have to leave. It was urgent. See, again, where does it revolve around? So this is how we analyze and we tear apart these various diseases, these various things that we have in our soul. We start to tear them back, the actions, and we reach the kernel, the disease, where the disease comes from. And this is the level of tafakkur that a person needs to do. So the first thing Amir al-Mu'mineen says, he says, you should desire for others what you desire for yourself. Hate for others what you hate for yourself. Do not oppress as you do not like to be oppressed. The same way, I don't like shoes in the way when I'm trying to go, my foot's like turning like this and I'm almost twisting my ankles. In the same way, I don't like it. Then I shouldn't leave my shoes on the ground. See, it's infringement of haqq al-nas. Do good to others as you would like good done to you. Regard bad for yourself, whatever you regard bad for others. Accept that treatment from others which you would like others to accept from you. Simple. How do I maintain good relationships? How is it that I make friends and influence people and have people like me? Because that's like a desire as well. That we have, how do I get people to like me? How do I get people to like me? Well, act with them the way that you would want to be acted with. Don't try and hide it like, no, I don't mind. I wouldn't mind someone saying that to me. No, yes, you would. I don't mind using this word for, people of this race. I don't mind. If I was in their position, I wouldn't mind. I don't mind when people say it to me. It doesn't matter about it's what the other person. So when we place ourselves in the position of the other person and our hand on our heart, if we don't like the way that we address someone, or if someone was to address us in the same way, then that's something that we need to start working on. And that's how you make friends, how you influence, how do you create love in the hearts of the people. Allah gives a simple answer in the Holy Quran. He says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وَدًّا. The ones that believe in Allah and do good actions Allah will place His love in their hearts. It's really simple. You believe in Allah, you do good actions, your love will remain in the hearts of the people. And this is how you have love for imams that you never saw. That you have love for ashab, forget the imams aside. You have love for people like Salman, Abu Dhar, that you name your children after them. People that you never saw. People that you never knew. But yet their names live on and you have love for them. Why? إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Because they believed in Allah and they did good action. So now Allah has placed their love and made it incumbent to be in the hearts of all people. It's natural. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's how we make friends, how we influence people. And do not talk about what you do not know. Though what you know, even though what you know be very little. So if you don't know about something, or you know a little bit about it, Imam saying don't talk about it. Don't try and debate about it. Don't try and... There is a difference between trying to learn. I've heard something, I want to learn. I'm asking for the sake of learning. And there's a difference between, but I've never heard this in my life before. It's got to be wrong. There's two differences. One is filled with arrogance and pride. One is filled with a genuine desire to seek proximity to Allah. Says, do not speak about anything that you don't know anything about, or do not speak about something that you know nothing about. Even if you know very little about it, don't say. And do not say to others what you do not like to be said to you. It's quite simple, quite straightforward. And know that self-admiration, loving yourself, what all our examples have circulated and rotated around, says know that self-admiration, ajab, loving yourself, is contrary to action, is contrary to the state, is contrary to what a person, Allah wants from a person. And he says, and it is a calamity of the mind, it is a disease of the mind. That a person that loves themselves, and you see this culture that is being created, a culture of self-admiration, a culture of loving oneself, the selfie culture that has been created. That I'm going to put this filter on my face and make myself look this nice. I'm going to, take my picture in this angle and that angle so that people, trying to promote myself. Because I believe myself worthy of promotion. The self-admiration and this culture that we have developed of wanting to take, selfies, wanting to look in the best light, wanting to, airbrush our faces and lighten something, and this desire to be the ideal, the desire, even at this point, the desire to be light, the desire to have fair skin. Something totally contrary to Islam. It's something that has been placed in the minds of people through a colonial mindset. That we were colonized by people with white skin. They held power over us. And so now generation after generation, that ideal has been passed on and on. That parents now will say to their children, don't go out and play in the sun, you'll go dark. That culture of racism, that culture of being or having an issue with the color of skin. No, you can't marry her, she's too dark. Can't marry him, he's too dark. But yet Islam has no concept, no idea, there isn't anything. But this is what is being sold to us, this is what is being told to us, and we're buying in hand over fist to this narrative that's being lighter in some way makes you better. But yet it is something against Islam. And so people go to extreme lengths to try and be lighter. For what end? For what purpose? It says, know that self-admiration is a calamity for the mind. It will destroy you. Ujub will destroy you. The people that have riyā in their worship, people that were praying and then, they heard someone and they sort of extended the prayer. Or, I maybe prayed Salatul Layl, or I'm doing a mustahab fast, and, someone asked me, no, thank you, I'm fasting, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, I'm just so tired. Last night I spent, doing Salatul Layl and the other Aman, and so, I'm a bit tired. So all of that, ibadat, everything, destroyed. I go on ziyarah, and the way I am on ziyarah, I need to get in front of the haram, my hand on the chest and looking sad. I have to look sad. If I'm in Karbala, I have to look sad. And I have my hand on my chest. Take my photo now. Wait, let me have a look first. No, take it again. I don't look sad. I'm in Karbala. But the self-admiration, the riyā is there because the disease is there. So now I want to get my photo taken in next to the Haram of Aba Abdullah, but I want to get it taken nice. So I look good. No one's ever said, no, I should correct that. I bet, maybe, no one's ever said, when they've had their photo taken in front of that zari, wait, the zari is not in focus. Everyone's like, no, wait, my face is blurry. Wait, my eyes were closed. Do it again. And then try and look really, really sad. And then in Najaf, we'll try and look a bit happy. And it's all a show, it's all a farce. And so those people, on the day of judgment, the narration says that the people of Raya and Ujab will be called forward. And they will say to them, come forward. These are your scroll of deeds. These are all the actions that you did. Now go and find those people for who you did it. Because there's no reward for you here. Go find all those followers on Facebook that you did it for. And all those people that you wanted on Instagram or you wanted on Twitter to somehow think you were cool. Or religious. So go and find them and ask them to give you your reward. Go and find the people that you were trying to impress with your words, the people that you were trying to impress. You know how minuscule this, or how minute this point is. I'm here reciting, and I recite something and I see that the people like it. And so now that the people like it, I change and I go off on that tangent because my crowd like it. That's thawab that I would have gained for saying or doing the dhikr of Ahlul Bayt. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, I'll be asked, go and ask the people that you did it for. If I'm reciting a qasida, and we have people that turn their voices nicely, people with beautiful voices. Now I'm reciting a qasida, I'm reciting a dua, and I can hear that people are appreciating my voice. So I add one extra turn of my voice. Or I add extra sorrow or pain to my voice. So that now people say, wow, what a great voice. That's all that ibadat gone. Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah will ask, go and ask them. Those people who you did it for, go and ask them. This is how minute and how delicate the matters of the soul are. The matters of akhlaq are very delicate. And over the last 10, 11 nights that I've been here, that should be something that should have come out. That how delicate these matters are. That a word, a thought can alter the state of the soul. And it can alter the state of the soul within the barzakh. It's something that we have to think about. In the end, I want to thank all of you for coming, those of you that were attending, especially those that attended on time, that were there and made it, alhamdulillah. It's been an honor. I usually did this part at the start of my lectures, and then I realized actually I might have offended someone in that particular lecture, and so I got like forgiveness for all the previous lectures but not that one. So I'll do it at the end now, that if I have offended anyone, if I have upset anyone in any way, shape or form, I hope that you'll humbly forgive me. It was never my intention to offend, it was never my intention to upset, and it's not malicious against anyone. I don't know anyone, I don't observe anyone's lives. I don't see how people live their day-to-day lives. If I've said something, it is only that which I've seen with my own experience, defects which I've seen within myself, that I then present to you, and in the hope that maybe it might help someone else. So if you can find it in your hearts, then please do forgive me, inshallah. Keep me in your prayers, and you will all, inshallah, be in my prayers as well. Once again, thank you for attending, thank you for your hospitality and the kind words and the messages that people have sent me afterwards. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps you all happy and keeps you under His safety, inshallah. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives our sins. Pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives the sins of our parents. Oh Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, keep safe the Shia of Ali Muhammad around the world. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa'ah. Those who are in debt, clear their debts. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time, and allow us to be amongst His true muntadhirin, His true waiters, for the acceptance of these du'as and any of the du'as of the brothers and sisters abroad. Please recite 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.